This map shows Beringia, the massive land bridge that once connected Siberia to Alaska. For most of the 20th century, the story of how humans reached the Americas was considered a solved problem. The Iron Law of Archaeology stated that the very first people crossed this land bridge near the end of the last ice age, exactly 13,000 years ago. The people who made that crossing were identified by one highly specific, distinctive tool they carried with them. It was a finely crafted stone spearhead, first discovered near a town in New Mexico called Clovis. Archaeologists named these hunters the Clovis people, and their arrival became the absolute starting line for American history. For decades, this consensus was rigid. To suggest anyone had arrived before the Clovis people was professional suicide. As one archaeologist put it, claiming you found an older site was like saying you had just seen Elvis walk out of a Burger King. Because the scientific community accepted the 13,000-year baseline as absolute fact, they stopped looking for older evidence. If you do not believe an earlier chapter exists, you aren't going to dig deep enough to find it. In the autumn of 1992, a construction crew was widening a San Diego freeway. A paleontologist monitoring the earth-moving equipment noticed a scatter of broken bone in the exposed dirt. It belonged to a single American mastodon, a massive, heavy-limbed relative of the elephant. But these remains were arranged strangely. The limb bones had been violently shattered while still fresh, bearing spiral fractures. Scattered right beside them were 5 large stones. To the researchers, it looked like a butchery site, where heavy rocks had been used as hammers and anvils to crack open the fresh bones. This timeline illustrates exactly why those rocks caused such an uproar. If you start at the Clovis baseline of 13,000 years ago, you have to scroll all the way back to roughly 100,000 years ago to reach the date geologists pulled from the mastodon bones. That is tens of thousands of years before modern humans are even thought to have left Africa. The reaction from the scientific community was severe. Archaeologists pointed out that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. They argued the heavy construction equipment itself must have crushed the bones and driven the rocks into the sediment. The site was largely written off as construction damage, but the magnitude of the discovery forced an uncomfortable question. Once you allow yourself to ask if the accepted timeline is wrong, you start to wonder how many other sites have been dismissed. 3,000 miles north, in the frozen hollows of Canada's Bluefish Caves, an archaeologist named Jacques Cinquemars had excavated tens of thousands of ice entirely wrong. Extreme claims like Calico might just be piles of natural rocks, but the overarching insistence that humans walked this continent long before the Ice Age ended has been completely vindicated. Certainty in science is often just a question waiting for better evidence to surface. Somewhere out there, under a highway or sealed in a cave, the next footprint is waiting to push the human story even further into the deep past.